Welcome everybody to another episode of Teaching Tuesday, Ups and Downs edition. Have you ever felt like you've been a mistake? Or maybe an irritant? Or what about like you're a mess up? And you don't necessarily blame God, but there is a part of you that goes, God, why did you make me this way? And I think we can ask that question, whether you want to or not. I think we have that freedom to ask about almost anything. Like why did you make me with brown hair? Or why did you make me this tall? For me, I've asked several questions about God about who I am. But the number one thing that always comes back to me is the way I think. I think differently than most people. And that's not a boastful thing. It's not that I think higher than other people. It's not that I think lower than other people. It's just like, I feel like if most people are here thinkers, I'm kind of over here thinker. And I've seen this throughout my whole life. Outside the box thinker is, I even had a teacher one time tell me, come on back in the box, like come towards the box. Because I just think outside there. And that's caused, I feel like sometimes, more difficulties than it has solutions or benefits to it. And again, I don't think God necessarily messed up when he made me, because I feel like he made me with a purpose, but I guess my struggle sometimes is that I just don't know what that purpose is. And so it got me thinking about a story I heard once about how a pearl is made. And if you're unfamiliar with that, a pearl is made, this beautiful pearl is made through an oyster or a clam when a piece of sand or an irritant gets in there. Something that shouldn't belong, a foreign object, gets stuck into this sensitive spot. And what the clam then does is it spews out this, and it covers it with this soft, silky material, and it covers it until it wraps it up and it doesn't become an irritant anymore. It becomes this very beautiful piece of jewelry. And we often hear that story when we go through hard times, when we go through difficulties, and that God can take something that's an irritant or a challenge and make it something very beautiful. And that is absolutely true. I do believe that. But sometimes I feel like I'm the irritant. Like I'm the thing that, of a foreign object that doesn't belong where it is. And it's frustrating because I feel like God made me that irritant. Like, I'm not blaming him for who I am, but on the other sense, he made me in my fundamentalness. Like, I understand that there is fundamentalness. I don't think that's a word. I probably won't look it up, but if you want to tell me if it's a word or not, that's fine. Who I am fundamentally is who God made me to be. And I do understand that there is the fall, and I'm a sinful being, and so I'm never going to be perfect on this side of heaven. But who I am at my core, like God created me with that, right? But then why do I feel so out of place sometimes? Like, why do I feel like a screw up? And it got me thinking, like, yeah, I feel like I am that piece of sand or that irritant in a place that doesn't belong. And so I question sometimes, why? Why did you make me this way, knowing that I was going to have to go through so much difficulties in almost every aspect of my life, both career, professionally, home, socially, internally? And I thought, every situation that I go through where there seems to be friction because of who God made me to be, he's kind of covering me in that silky, protective covering. He's refining me into who he wants me to be. It's not easy. And it's certainly not enjoyable, at least for me. But yeah, God made me, when I looked up this story and how a pearl is made, I actually said it's a parasite. And I thought that was a pretty good analogy of how I feel sometimes, like a parasite. But God is taking something so raw and so, what other purpose do I have but to become this fine piece of jewelry for him? And that transformation is quite hard. And I guess at my core, I'm always going to be who I am. Like, if you look at a pearl, I would imagine at its core, it still is that irritant. But it's been surrounded by, if you will, grace and mercy and love. And so I look at that story from a different perspective. I look at it from how it would feel to be that parasite, that irritant, that foreign object in a place that it doesn't belong. And then I look at pearls. And these aren't all pearls, but see the white ones. Look at the pearls. One pearl standing alone is a beautiful thing. Marvelous object to look at. But when you string them together, the use of those pearls become even greater. Like, yeah, you could use a pearl for one earring, I guess, or to set it on something, but really, besides the beauty of it, really what good is a pearl? But when you put more pearls together, you're actually able to use something, and it becomes more beautiful. And this is kind of what it's like when you take something that's a mess up or an irritant or a foreign object, and it transforms into a beautiful pearl, and you put that pearl with another pearl, and those two pearls with another pearl, and you be able to string them together. And that's kind of the picture of the church, is this string of pearls that were all once irritants, foreign objects, parasites really, until God put his grace and his mercy. But you had to be covered, but at your core you still are who you are. And so my challenge right now for me in my life is to remain who I am, but to be more like Christ, to be more covered in his grace and his mercy. And it's a challenge. It really is. To keep who you are, but to be more like Christ. There's a verse that pops in my mind when I come across these thoughts. And it's in Romans 5, and it says, "Not only so, but we also rejoice in our sufferings," which I have not attained that yet. To suffer or to rejoice when we suffer. Because sometimes it feels like your life is suffering. And to rejoice in that really doesn't make sense. But it's not really the suffering that we're rejoicing in. It's not that you are an irritant in the clam that you rejoice in. But we rejoice because we know that suffering produces perseverance. A pearl does not become a pearl in a day. It's a time process. It takes perseverance, and that perseverance builds character, layer after layer after layer. And that character produces hope. That's why we rejoice, because of the hope that we have. And hope does not disappoint us, because God has poured out his love into us, into our hearts by the Holy Spirit. And so today I challenge you, and I challenge myself, right here, right now, that if you feel like that irritant, if you feel like that mess up, if you feel like you're that person who just is in the wrong place at the wrong time all the time, no matter how hard you try, to know that God is covering layer over layer over layer, and he's smoothing you out, that he's protecting you. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like your whole world might be collapsing in. I mean, imagine a parasite being in the mouth of a clam, and you just have this protective layer coming over you, and like, what's happening? God's transforming us into something even better. And that's a hard thing to think about sometimes. But I encourage you, I encourage myself to think about that. And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give us a like and subscribe. Get that little bell notifications if you want to know when more Teaching Tuesdays or any other videos come up. Please leave your comments down below what you thought, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.